Happy Monday.
Happy
How
Monday.
are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Welcome, everyone. Today's Lunch and Learn Live, where we are going to be talking about nutrients to help you through the holiday, well, the fall season, not the holiday season, although the holidays are all coming quickly, right? We've got a couple weeks of Thanksgiving.
It feels very quick, I just have to say. I don't know about you, but all of a sudden I'm like, we're in November. I'm like scheduling appointments. I'm like, oh my God, it's November.
I
How did that
know.
happen?
I have no idea.
I
Like,
feel like it was just August.
I know. Well, I want to share this. I don't know if you guys can read this.
Oh, I love that you posted that today. Yeah.
It's probably not showing up on camera. It's probably showing backwards. But if you
Yeah.
could figure it out and read backwards, you guys, it says, how can you simplify your life right now? And this morning, I was just called to pull a card for myself because I feel like it's been a really hairy weekend for me on a lot of fronts. And I've noticed, one of the things we talk about is how our thoughts impact our feelings, impact our experience of life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are these trigger thoughts? What is going on? I've got to pull myself out of this place. And so I'm like, let me pull a card today to reflect on. And this was the one. But Carissa, you're so right, because here you go, you guys. It is like, how do we simplify our lives? And this holiday season, what? Everything is getting busier and crazier. And the question is, how do we really simplify our lives? I know.
Yeah, I love Katie.
Yeah,
Watch Lots
Katie.
News.
You are spot on, Katie. It's so true because we, all right, let's be real, guys, right? Like the elephant in the room is tomorrow is the election, and everyone's just sort of on this high alert. And I will say I got a client who messaged me. She's concerned. She's got some anxiety. It's impacting her appetite, and it's all this anxiety around the election. And I was like, hey, turn off the TV, just like you just said, Katie, right? Like I'm like, turn off the TV because it's not making things better. It's making things worse, right? The truth is, you guys, what is the TV for? What is the news for? It's all of this hype, essentially, right? That's designed to make us want to stay connected and continue to watch it as opposed to bring us calm and peace. The news today is more entertainment. Would that be the appropriate word to use?
I think so. And we also really can't think critically when we're in a state of fear. Right? So I don't even really
Exactly.
watch TV. Like I record shows and I watch things for entertainment that lets me unplug if I don't want to read a book, but I don't really put anything else on because once I'm into that fear-based dialogue, I don't think critically. I don't think logically. You know what I mean? Like my emotions are running the show and there's so much information emotions. I love emotions, but not when it's directed when someone's telling me how to feel and what to think. So
Yeah, I love that. And that is what the news is all about. So you guys, as we move into the next week, and I mean, who knows what's going to happen over the next couple of days or the next week or the next month or the next couple months, but it is a good time to turn off the news and practice more mindfulness. Like Katie said, yeah, keep nice and calm, right? Because that is the key to all things. And it is one of the ways that we can simplify our lives, all of us right now, and not allow ourselves to get wrapped up in all of the politics and craziness that's happening out into the world. So I invite you all to do that because that's probably even more important. We're talking about nourishing the body today, but nourishing the body is not just about food. Nourishing the body is also about all the other things that we allow into our minds, our thoughts, our periphery, our vision. So be really conscientious about all of that. So I hope that brings some of you peace. I think sometimes too, I need to be reminded, like, of course, I have my favorite Telegram channels, and I'm like, okay, let me go scroll through before I go to bed or during the day when I've got downtime. But none of that is actually bringing empowerment, right? It is It is a distraction from other things. And it is also somebody else's agenda entering my mind versus my own thoughts and beliefs. So it's important for us to remember that, you know. And I love when you and I were just talking a couple minutes ago, Carissa. I love what you said. It's like at the end of the day, as human beings, we're probably all just wanting the same thing, right? Peace, happiness, prosperity, love. Like,
I haven't met anyone on either side of the spectrum that doesn't want the same thing.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important for us all to remember. Like everything else is all sensationalism. That's the word I was looking for earlier.
That's a very good word. Yes.
Right? It's all sensational versus like, okay, what comes down to it, you know?
Well, just getting out and talking to people, right? The news will have you not liking someone based on something they're wearing or based on, anything. So when you take that all away, like just getting out and talking to people, nobody's really like that.
Yeah. And it's the same thing too with regard to stories, right? Like every story we have comes from one perspective, one point of view.
Yeah.
And so it's important for us to remember that there are many different point of views. And I mean, even those of you guys who are here with us because you are working on your health, you're working on your well-being, you're here with us because you're looking for points of view, right? It doesn't mean that our point of view is right. And it doesn't mean that there aren't other points of view. You know, like for me, as a practitioner, one of the things that's really important is that I look at all sides of everything because that is really the only way to understand.
Yes.
You know? So anyway, here we go. Let's talk about, so we talked about nourishing, not with the news this, this next coming week and all of it's crazy. But let's talk about food and nourishing the body. I know you guys, there is, you may have heard it before, but it doesn't, it's super valuable the way it is put, super succinct and clear. And that is like, here's the fall, and we have a candy holiday, followed by a pie holiday, followed by a cookie holiday, followed by a booze holiday. And we're wondering where the nourishment for the body comes in. And you guys, that is the case, right? That's what's been culturally accepted. I always joke, and I think we may have talked about this last week. I always joke that, everyone is like, oh my gosh, flu season is coming. Flu season is coming. It's like, yeah, well, it starts right after Halloween. Are we wondering why flu season is coming? And it's because we're weakening and damaging our immune system when all of that candy, that starts right off at the Halloween period, right? That gets the kids. And now all of a sudden you're having, where are my teachers out there? Well, they're probably teaching right now, but when they watch this on the replay, but all my teachers out there will tell you, like, they know it's all coming now after Halloween. We want to do the opposite of that, right? We really want to set our bodies up powerfully. And it's not that you can't enjoy good things. I mean, for the retreat last week, we had amazing pumpkin pie, for the pie holiday.
I love that pumpkin pie so much.
We did use some maple syrup as a sweetener. You can also use the stevia as a sweetener for that. We had somebody in our group who didn't like that, so we chose to use the maple syrup. Did make it higher glycemic, but there was no sugar in it, right? And the pumpkin itself has so many nutrients. And the crust, it was a combination of what was it? Oat flour, almond flour, and was there dates in there? I can't remember if there was dates in there. But it was all whole natural ingredients, right? So you can still have your cake and eat it too, but what we want to do is up level exactly what that cake is so that it makes more sense. Katie, recipe, please. Katie, I will post it for you. I know you weren't at the retreat, but I will post that specific recipe onto the Facebook group for everyone in preparation for Thanksgiving, because it was yummy and it was so super simple and easy. But so let's talk about how do we nourish the body through the fall season. Number one, we kind of already covered, like we want to cut back on the sugar, right? So yes, people are walking around with all that stuff. We have higher stress. So with higher stress means what happens to our immune system? Our immune system gets weaker. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're managing that and putting good stuff to support our bodies down the hatch, right? So down the hatch goes the good stuff to actually support our bodies and keep our resilience. Some of my favorite things are, of course, garlic, onions, honey, ginger, all wonderful things to help to keep that immune system strong. I know, Carissa, we've talked about the adaptogens. You wanna take those?
Yes, I love adaptogens. And just you mentioned like ginger. I love turmeric. I drink it every day. I actually use the turmeric ginger powder from PRL, and then I like to add cinnamon into it. And then I also use a little hack, like I'll let the water boil and then I'll take it off and like let it cool for a little bit because I like to add my
Yes.
liquid supplements in here also. Um, and I think that the warming foods and spices, we kind of overlook them, right?
Yeah.
But they really do support our bodies. And, the digestion can be a little sluggish in the colder months. And I find like warm ginger and the turmeric really help me with that.
Yes.
And you talked about adaptogens too. And I use the reishi at this time.
Yeah. Well, let me take a step back, you guys. Adaptogens are adaptogenic, herbs, mushrooms, things like that. Adaptogens, what they do is they help us adapt, right? They help upregulate the things in the body that need to be upregulated, downregulate the things in the body that need to be downregulated, right? So take, for example, like coffee or caffeine, right? Caffeine is not necessarily an adaptogen because what's it's doing? It's always going to rev you up. It's not going to slow you down. So adaptogens have that ability to provide the up leveling where the up leveling is needed and the down leveling where the down leveling is needed. And they're really, really powerful, especially in times of stress. So I love the mushrooms. I love the fermented mushrooms from Premier.
Mm-hmm. I make that tea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can make it as a tea. You can throw it in your smoothie. I also really love the adaptogen, which is an adaptogenic herbal combination that's really helpful with stress. Like when I've got a lot of stress coming or I'm feeling overwhelmed or I just know that I'm going to fall out of balance if I don't provide myself with support, then I will use that or the Adrenavan to support the adrenals, right? And of course, the Max B or the B Complete or the phytomethylate, some sort of B vitamins are really helpful with that as well. But I do like, like the fermented mushrooms, you can add them to a soup. The turmeric, you can make that into a tea. You can add it to your food. Guys, one of my favorite winter drinks is chai. I love making my own chai and I make it without caffeine. All I do, you guys, is I boil in a pot of water. I will boil cinnamon sticks, cardamom, cloves, and ginger. Right, I like the fresh sliced ginger, and I just boil all those. And I just kind of leave it, and I'll add more water until it has flavor. We do it a lot at the retreats because I love to have it around. The ladies have always loved the chai tea, but it's so simple to do, and it's got no caffeine, and it's warming and nourishing and supportive of the immune system. So that's a really helpful one. Yeah, Leah says
great to like leave it on your stove. First of all, it makes your house smell good. So thank you for that because you taught me to make that. And I think it can be really easy to forget about hydration in the cooler weather since we don't feel as thirsty, right? So I think it's great to have that pot because you just keep taking off it. You remember it. I'm a big herbal tea drinker. I love hot things, even in the summer, but I tend to drink a lot more in the winter. Like I love chamomile and peppermint, hibiscus, and I'll use stevia, just to get a little sweetness sometimes. And it just, it brings that added benefit of relaxation and the immune support, because I use them, what is it? The mushroom powder.
Yeah, Leah says the mushrooms help keep her calm. They really, really do. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys, let's not forget to, like, as we're going, what I love about the winter is I love the winter vegetables, like the squashes, the sweet potatoes, all the dark leafy greens, the soups, the stews, the roasted veggies. Like those are, I don't know. I think they're yummy. I don't know about the rest of you guys. Don't get me wrong. I love my salads. I love my smoothies during during the summer months, but I am not inclined so much to drink a smoothie during the winter. It just doesn't personally, it doesn't call to me, right? But to have soup, and you guys like break the paradigm. You know, when I lived in Japan, I had miso soup for breakfast every day. It's like the norm in the culture. And here we're like, soup for breakfast? Oh my God, no, I need my bagel or my croissant or my donut or whatever, you know, American culture. But yeah, you could have your soup, you could have it for breakfast. So it's one of the good things. Yeah, Katie said, who doesn't love a good roasted parsnip? Yeah, you know what's funny, Katie, is most people don't even make parsnips, right? It's like it's not one of those common vegetables. So if you are someone who's never had a parsnip, I encourage you to have a parsnip. It's really good. You know what another one is that most people have never had? I don't know if you've ever had celery root, Carissa.
No, I have
Oh,
not.
it's so good. I love to make celery root soup. So really easy. I'll just take vegetable broth and then I will typically just, steam the celery root so that it's soft. And then, of course, I mean, with all things I make, I always end up sauteing some garlic and onions at the bottom of the pot, then throwing the vegetable broth in, and then you've got the celery root itself, which they're usually readily available in the grocery store. And then, of course, I just put a little bit of the vegetable broth in the blender with the celery root. I'll usually once it's soft, I'll cut it up into smaller pieces, and then I just blend it, and you end up with this creamy soup that really has like a celery like taste, but it's like got that creaminess because it's the celery root. So that's a really good one. And that, I mean, Katie, that reminds me too, like a little bit of parsnips, because parsnips, I want to say parsnips have like rose. Would you call it like a rose flavor?
Yeah,
Like they've got like a little bit of a fun florally kind of taste, But I love root vegetables.
yeah, and I think it's, they're so simple to incorporate into meals, just how you talked about that soup. I love blending my soups too.
Yes.
And I like to make usually a big pot and then I'll freeze some of it, right?
Yeah.
Because I typically only keep things in the refrigerator for like 1-2 days max.
Yeah.
So,
throw it out 2 days.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Gross. So then I just freeze everything and then I just take it out easily, the morning of that I want something and bam, it's done. And I love the idea about having soup for breakfast because I'm a big miso soup fan too.
Yeah.
And I tend to now look for savory breakfast rather than having a sweet breakfast or cereal breakfast or anything like that because it just doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't
Exactly.
make me feel my best.
Exactly. I think when you begin to change up your diet and you start eating differently, like you start to feel things in your body differently and you realize like, oh, all that heaviness, sugar, whatever for breakfast, it actually doesn't set you up powerfully for the day, So switching that is important. But for those of you who struggle to get vegetables in, I think kind of what we're talking about is really helpful because you can, I'm going to call it cream any kind of vegetable into your soup and create that creaminess. For example, in the retreat that we had last week, I made a vegetable soup. We added some creaminess to it. So it was all vegetables. And then we actually blended the different beans with the vegetable broth. So it created a nice creamier kind of soup. And you can still have chunks in there, just blend some of it. But you can, even parents who are struggling, how do I get more vegetables into my kids? You can easily hide vegetables this way. Take some of what's in there, throw it into your blender so it's nice and soft and creamy, and then you can have that creamier soup either with chunks or without, depending on how much you actually cream. So it is a secret. Blending zucchini creates a nice creaminess, not just for soup, but for those of you who are like wanting to make salad dressings without having any oil, for example. Blending that zucchini really creates that nice creaminess.
So, that's a good idea for salad dressing. I did not know that one.
Yeah. So hot soups and then teas, which we kind of touched upon. I think that they're really helpful, like Carissa said too, for making sure that you're getting that digestion, getting your stomach nice and warm and happy.
Yeah, I look for all medicinal teas. I'm not a Lipton tea drinker or anything else like that. Like all my teas serve a purpose.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think they're all delicious. Hibiscus, amazing. Chamomile, delicious. I
Yeah.
love them all.
Yeah, I love that. So, you guys, what questions do you have? Go ahead and type them into the chat box as you're thinking about the fall and fall recipes and how to keep yourself really happy and healthy during the winter months. You guys, mushrooms, sometimes mushrooms can have that vitamin D, so that's a good thing to add. Of course, lots of fiber, you guys, which you're going to get in by having different vegetables. And, let's not forget vitamin C, because that is, tis the season for lots of vitamin C. And there's not a whole lot of berries available this time of year because they're out of season. So getting in your other high vitamin C foods, like your peppers, like your leafy greens, like those kinds of things can be really helpful to keep yourself boosted for the fall months.
And I think it's important, and you just made me think of too, sunlight. Obviously it's being reduced, and so and it's colder in the morning, but I still think it's really, really important to get out there for the morning sun, and even if it's cold, to do a little bit of grounding, because one of the simplest things you can do for vitamin D, and it's a little tricky in the winter, but just spending a few minutes outside each day, even if it's an overcast.
Yes.
And you can supplement with vitamin D. It's very beneficial for your mood and for your immunity. But I think it's important to get out, in that sunshine for your mitochondria, which is super important just for whole body health.
Yeah. The other thing too, speaking of which, that I think often gets overlooked, and we mentioned a little bit when we talked about the teas, but it is like the different herbs and things like that, making sure that we are bringing them into, not just having them as teas, right, but bringing them into our food and things like that. So a lot of those fresh herbs are still really helpful, even during these fall and winter months. And Leah, yeah, absolutely. It's much easier during the winter months to get frozen berries than it is to get fresh berries. So you can certainly incorporate them into your diet. Blueberries, strawberries, yeah, 100%. We tend to use, once the price hits a certain level of fresh berries, you're like, yeah, no, let's just go with the frozen stuff, because that's like consistent pricing all year round.
I love frozen too, because you could keep it forever, right? Like even when I buy berries, I do come home, I make sure they're rinsed, I store them in a mason jar, but you're still only getting like an extra day. So I love just frozen, because you could still take them out, you can defrost them if you don't want to blend them up in something. So I really always opt for frozen. Yeah. Unless I'm going to a farm stand.
Yeah. So Leah, absolutely. You can totally make use of those. All right, Miss Carissa, what else can we leave everyone with in our next couple of minutes of Lunch and Learn Live today?
Well, I'd like to circle back to where we started. I just think it's a good time, to focus on your mental well-being, with gratitude and mindfulness practices, and just taking a few minutes each day to reflect on the things you're grateful for. Doing simple breathing techniques or exercises can just help lower your stress and bring that sense of calm, especially when things get very busy and stressful. Mm-hmm. And now is the time to do it, right? We're not outside as much anymore. We're not as busy in our schedules as much anymore, although it kind of ramps up around this time.
Yes.
But I think it's really important to ground ourselves and settle ourselves during this time to kind of just bring our bodies with the seasons.
Yeah.
Because we're in tune to that.
It is more, we're moving into more of that hibernation kind of season. And yet we're moving into high speed mode with all of the holidays happening. And I think what you said is really important. Not just pay attention to what we're nourishing the body with, but our mind and our spirit. And one thing that I want to point out, because we have a lot of people who deal with things like emotional eating, for example. Don't we all have some food habits that are maybe not the best, or we know like this is coming from stress? Like there's times when I'm like, why am I eating? Oh, wait a second. I just had a conversation that stressed me out and I'm using it for this. Or, oh my gosh, I've got this big project I'm working on. And rather than sit down and working on my project, I'm like, oh no, I'm trying to secretly fuel my brain or over fuel my brain. And so I find myself eating when I shouldn't be eating. But that is another important thing to remember. So when you're taking the time to stop, to reflect, to be present, to breathe, all of those things that Carissa just talked about, when you're doing all of that stuff, you are bringing a whole new set of mindfulness. So now you will have more power, more control, more awareness over your different actions, right? So even if that bowl of Halloween candy is still sitting on your table, you're less likely to run over to it and grab it. I mean, first of all, just throw it out, right? Get rid of it. Get rid of it. But when you're less likely to do that when you are present and grounded in, you know, who you are and what's happening for you in that moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope everyone gained some insight today. I love this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys, we will see you again next week for Lunch and Learn Live. We are looking forward to it. I know we're rounding out the end of the year. And please, as the rest of this week unfolds, turn the TV off, keep yourself grounded in presence, carefully choose what it is that you are allowing into your awareness and your consciousness. Take some deep breaths, and it's all going to turn out.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
All right, everyone. Bye.
Bye.